So today we're here to discuss the Emerald Space, which is a really unique place within the context of DC cosmology, and I don't see anybody talk about it, let alone anyone have any real answers for exactly what this place is and where it's located. So today I'm going to take my best swing at giving it a shot and defining exactly where this is and how powerful it is as well. So be sure to like and subscribe for all the greatest lantern content in the universe, and let's get into it. So to be 100% honest, we don't have a lot of details whenever it comes to the Emerald Space, but it's most specifically focused upon in Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps throughout pretty much like one or two stories within the context of Rebirth. And we essentially pick up where Ganthet and Say, two of the last remaining Guardians at this point in time, are found Hal Jordan's ring, and they're attempting to get Kyle Rayner to essentially resurrect him from the dead because he created his soul out of this ring. And it's important to note that his life essence is contained within that ring and continues even though the rest of him has joined the emotional spectrum. And that is really important to consider because currently all of the emotional entities that exist within the confines of our multiverse are gone. Kyle sacrificed them to the source itself to fill the emotional reservoirs. So they are not referring to the emotional spectrum as a concept just within our multiverse. As they say this in the very next panel, it is demonstrated to us that Hal Jordan is indeed inside a brand new space known as the Emerald Space. So whenever they are referring to the Emerald Space that Hal Jordan visits, they are referring to the emotional spectrum itself. Why is this significant? Well, if you've seen my DC cosmology video, definitely not a massive plug, you'd know that the emotional spectrum is located past the source wall, which is the boundary of all of creation. And this is wildly significant for a variety of reasons. Them wanting Kyle to reach out and resurrect him or grab him from there makes sense because we've already seen Kyle, with the extent of his White Lantern powers, be capable of not only passing the source wall but tampering with structures and power sets beyond the source wall. So just based on that alone, chances are we're looking at the Emerald Space being some form of representation of willpower for not just our DC multiverse like we had with Ion, but instead the genuinely true place that represents willpower for the entire greater Omniverse that exists beyond where the source wall is currently located, or was at the time, I guess, now that it's been destroyed. And now we know that space as the greater Omniverse. So we've established exactly where this concept is, but now we need to establish what exactly it's like being within this space. So Hal Jordan, when he first arrived, was very disoriented, and apparently that's pretty darn normal. Now, he runs into an entire pantheon of people who died wearing a Green Lantern ring, and it turns out that this space is filled with pretty much everyone who ever wielded a green ring throughout at least our creation confirmed. Because Hal has a big old powwow with all these different people who've died throughout all of DC's history, like Katmatui, Tomar Ray, Abin Sur being the most notable, obviously. And it appears that once you die, you aren't really connected to that place anymore. And that's pretty important. We'll come back to that. But they're definitely not aware of pretty much anything that's actually going on. But what they can sense is major upheavals within the cosmos. And Abin Sur even says, like, yo, there's like all these problems going on. There's a problem with hope, implying that this space is at least next to, or the characters within it can sense nearby emotions, or at least major problems within the confines of the emotional spectrum from where they're currently located. Unfortunately, Hal's time here is kind of drawn short by Kyle Rayner, who reaches into the Emerald Space, grabs Hal Jordan, and resurrects him from the dead. Now, to really drive my point home whenever it comes to the concepts of where this place is, I'm actually going to venture outwards into a place most people probably didn't expect in this video, and I'm going to venture out into the Black Lantern Corps, or specifically the Dead Zone with Nekron. Why would this be relevant? Well, because Nekron is kind of like the true emissary of the Black, and he is like he's not an emotional entity, which is important to consider, because characters like Black Hand was stated as he would be like the emotional entity within the confines of our multiverse, and that's actually why Necron just doesn't blow up all of life and creation 24/7. It's actually because he has to have an avatar in our plane to be capable of dragging him here, as if there was some sort of major force that is keeping him from entering the universe unless there's specific conditions that are met. Chances are, the thing that's keeping him out is the source wall, and the only way he can actually bypass that is by having an emotional entity that represents him, that being Black Hand, within the confines of our multiverse. The Dead Zone is also an afterlife of all of the dead who have ever lived, and so the real question is, does each of the emotional wavelengths that exist out there have their own quote-unquote space that exists? And much like in the concepts of like the 92 Spectre run, everyone has an infinite amount of afterlives that they have to live through to fully like embrace enlightenment to the highest degree possible. And I wonder if, just like we saw in the Dead Zone, we saw a bunch of dead people, like Tomare, for example, specifically there, if you can exist throughout a large variety of all of the emotional spaces that exist out beyond the source wall. Now, that being said, guys, it's been an absolute blast kind of wandering through exactly what some of this really weird emotional spectrum space cosmology building has been. But unfortunately, that's kind of where it's going to end for the time being, because this is pretty much all the data we currently have on anything to do with like the Emerald space, or honestly even the Dead Zone and things along those lines. So be sure to like and subscribe down low. Tell me what you think, and I'm curious to hear what you guys are gonna say down in the comments, because I'm sure this video will get like 5 views, because cosmology stuff isn't the most popular things in the world, but it's something I genuinely enjoy, so if you did too, be sure to like and subscribe. That being said, later, Lanterns.